Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to today's episode of The Daily Sip, the last in the week, and a big one. We're going into another massive passion of mine around journalism, but also I think everything that encompasses around changing perceptions and raising awareness of issues and all that good stuff. And what better person to help me on this exploration into journalism than Grant Logan. So thank you, Grant, for joining me.
No problem at all.
Well, where are you based, Grant?
So I'm in a village called Chobham in Surrey.
Sorry, okay.
So just outside of London.
I know you just said before you're about an hour away because I'm Cambridgeshire. It's about an hour as well, but it's sort of the other side of London. So obviously sort of framed the topic in terms of journalism, but it's not only journalism. I know it sort of your story spans and spins around different areas, but could you just give the viewers a bit of a bio to who you are and what sort of things you've been working on?
Sure. So very quickly, I became disabled myself. It'll be 17 years ago next week, in fact, after a road accident. So I became paralysed and a permanent wheelchair user. I've been very fortunate to be involved in lots of different activities. I climbed Ben Nevis with Capability Scotland, and I've done the rally driving and the quad biking and the skydiving or indoor skydiving, with Backup Trust and Sportability and all of these great organisations. And I kept hearing when I came back from this from other disabled people, I wish I'd known about that. Mm. And that kind of sparked the idea for just providing a news service, pushing news out to a wider community, on different activities. Because, Martin, as you know, there are many organisations out there all trying to help people and trying to support people, but sometimes they have their own issues with getting their message out. So I started Disability Today back in about 2015, 2016. And in 2017, we decided to take it in as being a social enterprise, not for profit. And we launched a directory of information at NAIDEX in 2018, I think.
Well, that's probably when we last met in person, wasn't it?
I think it probably was, yes. Yeah. And that directory is purely, if you're looking for a wheelchair accessible cottage in Cornwall or the latest Braille watch or your local wheelchair rugby club. And then last year I decided that actually I'm going to rebrand and drop the dis and call ourselves Ability Today. Yeah. It kind of just because it's all about what we're trying to do, or let's focus on what we can do, not what we can't do. Yeah. And because I think everyone's striving to, do something and be involved and, make their lives more fulfilling. So last year, 2019, we rebranded. And during the last couple of years, we've been developing our roving reporter program. So for me, as I say, I kind of went out and did all of these great expeditions and roving reporter programs, and we would film them and put them up on the website. And then I realized that actually the volunteers that we were having come into the office, we should actually get them to do all of this now, seeing as I'm getting a bit long in the tooth. So we started sending our volunteers out to go water skiing with the Disabled Water Skiing Association, or we would send them gliding with Airability, and we'd create some videos and some short stories. And then last year I approached the National Council for the Training of Journalists with an idea of saying, look, we're already doing this. We've already got a team of roving reporters. The next step I see is providing a qualification in journalism. Yeah. And fast forward to May of this year, and we launched the Academy for Disabled Journalists. And we have students up and down the country now studying for a certificate in foundation journalism.
Brilliant. That's a perfect encapsulation of everything. And it's great to sort of see those steps that happened, and you can already, for people that don't know you as well as I do, you can kind of see why you would have taken that onto the next level. That all makes really, really good sense. I think obviously from a disability point, I've got a genetic condition. I've been in a chair since I was 3, and as you say, you acquired your disability. But apart from that sort of difference, I think we both got that love of the adrenaline stuff and doing all the live life to the full. And like you say, the ability really, the reason you rebrand is it's about ability, not disability. And then sort of look to feed that into how you get that passion, but also that information, that kind of signposting as well to the right people. And I'd be interested to get your thoughts on sort of disability horizons and ability today. But I think they both serve a really good need in terms of what I've just said, that sharing information and that kind of general passion as well. But like you mentioned, the move to social enterprise, like it's bloody hard trying to, we've got like mortgages, got to get food on the table. You've got to earn a living if you do something full time. But like that sort of digital information is really hard with the business model. So from that entrepreneurial perspective, it'd be great just to unpack a bit more how you've navigated trying to fund all of this, really.
So far, funding has been through myself to begin with. So I put in a lot of money in the very beginning to get the website up and running. I mean, going back, it's nearly probably 12 or 13 years ago, I set up the first social network for wheelchair users called the Wheel Life.
I remember Wheel Life, yes.
Yeah, and that was when Facebook didn't even exist. MySpace, that was the big social network at the time.
We are going back a bit there, Grant.
We are going back quite a bit, exactly. And so we set up the Wheel Life, and it was a great platform for a couple of years. We signed on lots of people from around the world. They felt very comfortable having a place that they could talk about their problems and issues. And I spent a small fortune creating that platform. So
were you working in another job, another career that enabled you to have the funds then?
Back then, I was working in the music business as a manager. And, I'd been doing that for probably 15 odd years before. And I continued for a period of time after my accident. But to be honest, my passions were changing. I was losing interest in the music industry and finding that my passion was being more involved in my community and helping other people. I said this, anyone that knows me will have seen me say this or write this before, but I had a nurse come into my hospital room when I was lying in bed not long after my accident, and she said, "One day you'll realize you're one of the lucky ones." And at the time, I was lying there with a broken back, feeling very
thinking, shut up.
I had no idea what she meant. I was lying there, very, feeling very sorry for myself, thinking, my life was over, type of thing, But very quickly, I realised that it wasn't, and I found support groups that got me back up and running again. And, I found that actually I am one of the lucky ones. I am still able to go out and about and travel the world and do all of these great things that I've managed to do. And I wanted to give some of it back. So going back to your question, a lot of it was funded by myself to begin with.
Sure.
Then we looked at then crowdfunding came along, which was great. And we've had a couple of different crowdfunding campaigns.
It's hard though, isn't it? The crowdfunding, but particularly when you look at disabled people community, it's that there's obviously a higher incidence of unemployment and poverty. So it's not to say, because I think we're both very into the business of ability, value, change narrative, change stereotype. So it's not to only look at the victim or the poverty or the unemployment, but factually that is there. So it's hard. We found it hard anyway to crowdfund from the community, if you like?
Well, yeah, no, 100%. To be honest, my crowdfunding has been family, friends, and extended network.
Yeah, so it was more like over there to bring it to the community.
Yeah, I find it very difficult to ask someone else that has a disability who again may be living, on restricted income and that to fund what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
So, for me, it was crowdfunding. We've received some awards from people at Unlimited.
Yeah, they're great.
From the National Lottery.
Yeah.
From the Rotary clubs locally. And we create revenue through our advertising as well. Which actually we had just brought in two people, two ladies with disabilities earlier this year to start working on selling advertising for us. And we started training them, and we started, teaching them the package and what we did and the whole ethos around Ability Today. And then COVID struck. And
budgets got frozen.
Budgets got frozen, and it just didn't feel right as well, phoning up companies. And some of them may be charities or social enterprises themselves. And ask them for advertising money. So everything kind of got on hold in that respect. But we've been very fortunate in receiving funding from different organizations. And we're continually looking for new ways of bringing in revenue. We don't have like yourself in Disability Horizons, we don't have any paid employees. It's all volunteering. And I'm very lucky that I have an access to work support worker that I get paid through the government as well. So
and I think we've not spoke one-to-one for a few months, but I mean I think you would understand what Purple Goat is and why. As in, for me, that's a move to talking to the big brands that have the budget about unlocking some of that for different initiatives in the disabled community world. So that's where it just started to feel a bit, going to charities, but particularly in COVID, as you say. But I think also, with or without funding, it never detracts from the need for our platforms and the impact it brings. And so it would be great that there's salaries for loads of disabled people and all the rest of it. But even if that never happens, the work carries on because it's such a necessary thing that the community needs, regardless of the funding.
100%. And, and that's why the Academy has now become such a focus for us, because, we want to, we're going to have, by the end of 2020, touch wood, but, we'll hopefully have between 4 and 8 students with a qualification in journalism that will be going out looking for work. And, that's why I'm talking to the BBC and the Creative Diversity Network and Media Trust, Channel 4, about, that's the one downside is, if COVID wasn't around at the moment, we would already had our students doing work experience in a lot of the different, the BBC obviously have regional offices and studios up and down the country. We would have had our students in there already doing things. That's all been put on pause for the moment, but let's hope that, there are positives around the corner and that, we will be able to get, placements in these organizations very soon.
I mean, no one wants to almost curse the presumption that, COVID will, one way or another, there will be a time post-COVID. We don't know when, we don't know how, but it feels like the big pause. And so whenever that and however that moves on again, as you say, that will all kick back in, I'd have thought, quite easily post-COVID. So it's just getting through this annoying pause, really.
Yeah, exactly. And in the meantime, we are, the students are studying, They're working towards the qualification. So hopefully when COVID does lift and we all start to go back out into the big wide world again, we'll have venues and events and happenings for our students to go to report on and come back to, No,
that's really cool. I love that model. And I mean, I've seen we're on Facebook together on your social media, you're in number 10 more than Boris lately. Like, how come you're always at number 10?
I was very fortunate to be invited there by the chief disability and employment advisor to Boris.
Yeah.
And I've pushed our message. I said I want to be part of the conversation about disability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's as I said earlier, there's lots of great organizations all out there trying to kind of support us and push our message, but sometimes the people that actually can change things aren't listening to the right people. Mm-hmm. Now, and they've just set up the disability unit, or earlier this year set up the disability unit attached to the cabinet. And I just wanted to make sure that ability today and what we're trying to achieve is part of the conversation. And I've cheekily just kind of said, right, it's been a couple of months since I was there. Can I come and give you an update on where we're at?
Yeah.
We're about to launch the academy. In fact, I think the last meeting I had was with a lady attached to the cabinet, and it was the week. I remember driving up to London, and we couldn't decide whether we were still allowed to shake hands or not. So it was literally the week before.
Yeah.
And then, a week later, it's like, right, life has now changed for the full year. But yeah, I just pushed and, trying to get my word in there, show what we're doing and show what a positive message we're trying to push forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think in a way, like you look at the rise of social media and platforms like Ability Today and Disability Horizons, and you look at what the charities are doing, like there is a lot of passionate people doing really great, innovative, disruptive things that are all giving different provision for disabled people, but it's generally cash poor and resource poor. And I think that's the move me and you and others are trying to take, is how do you connect the dots with government, with business, like with the rest of society. So it's not this sort of siloed thing going on. It's like, well, actually, like you say, if you train up disabled people to be journalists, how do you then get them into, paid work? And then that brings about financial independence. And that has a massive benefit to society as a whole. So I think it's good that we're starting to get in the room with decision makers to change the narrative.
Exactly, because it has a knock-on effect. I mean, I think all of us love to see Adia Depitan, Sophie Morgan, yourself, all of these kind of faces that have become more and more common to see on television and hear on radio, and that can only be a positive. So we're in an age now where it's become definitely, the Creative Diversity Network are partnering with all the majors, Channel 4, ITV, BBC, Sky, to try and double the amount of disabled people within the media industry within the next, well, originally it was by the end of this year. Those targets have been pushed slightly. Yeah. But everyone is aware, that we need to push this. It's not all about it's not all about a journalist presenting news at 10. It's about the jobs behind the camera as well as in front of the camera. Yeah. The researchers, the analysts, having people just working within that industry, so having a voice.
Yeah, and that's the move with Purple Goat moving into the marketing industry. You've got the Ades and Sophies that are seen as influencers and all the other, nano, micro, macro influencers that we work with. But exactly that you just said, it's also disabled designers, disabled copywriters, disabled like podcast producers. Like it's literally those jobs behind the scenes that not everyone wants to be the face of something, but they bring so much value, and it's always that team effort. So yeah, I can totally just mirror what you're saying in the marketing world as well, really.
And in fact, that's just reminded me to do a bit of a shout out. The BBC and the Media Trust are looking for individuals with disabilities to be part of their database of experts and go-to people, rather than just going to the same old faces that they do for different. Off the top, could be that they're doing a piece on gardening, and instead of going to Titchmarsh or whoever their go-to person is, they're looking for people with disabilities to be in front of the camera to give expert advice and stuff. So if there's anyone out there that feels that they could, get involved and give input into areas like that, then, get in touch with us.
That's good to hear that initiative's still being pushed. I remember it was ITV, not BBC, but I got invited along for that purpose. And there was a really lovely day and we got to see all the studios, but I don't think anyone that went along got called up and did an actual news piece. But hopefully things are moving, that it's not just talk, it's action now.
Well, there's definitely an initiative. The BBC have definitely partnered with the Media Trust. I had a conversation with the guy at the Media Trust a couple of weeks ago, and they're definitely trying to provide those kind of opportunities.
Yeah.
Let's hope, as you say, though, that they actually use the people that they're trying to get.
Yeah, it's the next step, isn't it? I think, and I wanted to talk to you about the sort of awareness raising initiatives and the sort of societal change of perception. It'd be remiss of me actually not to mention the new Netflix film. Have you seen or heard about Rising Phoenix?
I watched it last night.
We did as well. What did you think?
I had tears in my eyes for some of it.
I did. I haven't heard that in years.
Say that again. Sorry.
No, I wouldn't have thought to be imagining it either, like on the Daily Sip, but I was very tearful as well.
Yeah, it was very emotional. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was so well put together. And actually, but also, in fact, going back to what we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago, and the finances and, what happened in Rio.
That was ridiculous.
That was so depressing. But hey, they pulled it off in the end. And, I think that proved a point that going forward, that will not, or it shouldn't happen again. Yeah. But everyone go out and watch it.
It's an amazing film. I'm speaking to Greg, who I believe produced the film, very, very heavily involved in the making of it this afternoon. I had a general blanket email that I received on Wednesday, and I was like, oh, I'll check that out. I hadn't heard. And I watched it and I replied, I was like, wow, we need to talk more. Because prior to watching it, I've had this thing all week where I'm like, we need some fresh energy like London 2012. That brings disability back in the media, back in the limelight. But, we don't want it to be because of hate crime or because of tragedy. Like, of course, when that happens, we have to speak about that and address that as well. Like, I'm not head in the sand about the negatives, but I just feel back to your point, ability, not disability. It's like how we pierce the public consciousness,
Yeah. You know what? I had a moment last night where it made me quite proud to be British.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. We've got a lot of things wrong in this country, and there's a lot of things we still don't do right. And, we're on the right path, but it's taking way too long to get there. But you know what? To see that stadium full, and to see all the crowds coming to the Paralympics, we kind of proved to the world. With Dr. Ludwig being the kind of creator.
Well, when you talked about your accident and how sport and that community gave you, eventually sort of found that new way in your life. And that's what Dr. Goodman stood for, wasn't it? That it in the end, he wanted disabled people, his aim, they said in the film, wasn't it, that they wanted us to be able to work and participate in society, but he knew sport was the way to motivate and give that belonging to people that had been injured in the war or generally had accidents. I thought that was so powerful.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, raising confidence, self-belief, motivation, there's nothing better than sport to make you realize that, I mean, just going back to not long after my accident, there's a great charity called the Backup Trust, who specifically help people with spinal injuries. And about 6 months after my accident, I went on a multi-activity course in Keswick. Drove up there on the Sunday night, and on the Monday morning there's about 10 of us sitting in the car park in our wheelchairs, and the guy comes out and he says, "See that mountain over there? We're going to climb that today." And the feeling, and bearing in mind I was probably out of hospital for 3 or 4 months, the feeling of sitting on top of that mountain and the realization, actually, my life's not over, as my girlfriend said at the time, "You're not disabled, you're just short," and I kind of like that, because it's like, I can still get on with my life.
How do you find on ability today navigating because I was talking to someone the other day, when we had the 2008 crash and the austerity stuff kicked in and the disability rights movement became led, or at least very focused around the health conditions that meant, people that it was the hardest hit march, and it was very much about that part of the disabled community that needed benefits to live and to survive. And so, like I said before, we have to fight for those in the most need, right? But then also we need to realize that we can climb mountains and we can do anything we want, that you and I have experienced in our own journey. Like when you're doing your sort of content and stories, how do you balance those two quite different narratives?
Difficult one, because there are people, that again, for me, when I started this, it was about providing information, because there are people that through no fault of their own live behind closed doors and curtains because they don't have the support, they don't have the network, the family, the friends. So for me, it was about showing them that there is a network out there are support out there. But as you say, since the crash, social care has been cut. There are people that have had, real difficulty in just putting food on the table. And, as we all know, that being disabled, has additional costs, in everyday living. And I saw, there was an article on the news the other night, and the reporter ended the article, and it was all about COVID. And she said, in one way or another, we're all going to be paying for this, for a long time. And that's going to be tax rises, social care cuts. I mean, I've got friends that have all got children that, potentially are going to be paying for COVID for a very long time. So I don't have a simple answer to how I can.
No, I mean, it's a big question, and it's just interesting to balance it, isn't it? Because also, if you look at it in a marketing media way, disabled people. I think Shani Dunder said this on her interview, that we're not a homogenous group of people. We've got different, socio-economic circumstances, different political leanings, different football teams, like all the different stuff. So, like, if you're like with Horizons and Ability Today, one article won't resonate with all 14 million people, right?
No, exactly. And, it's like you're saying with Purple Goat. And, I remember going out, I think it was the first year Purple Tuesday was kind of promoted. And I went into my local town centre who had made a big deal out of we're supporting Purple Tuesday. And I took a couple of our volunteers down with us, and a handful of shops had their sales assistants in purple t-shirts and, you know, ready and willing. But before I even got into the town centre, you know, our multi-storey car park had a big sign at the front of it saying, disabled parking bay closed. Please park on the roof.
Oh, no.
It was Purple Tuesday day.
Oh,
and
no.
it's just like, you know, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand are doing. And look, Purple Tuesday is another great event, but we really need national organizations to get on board. And, you know, some of the shops that we went to weren't even aware it was Purple Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and we're talking about a shopping center. We're talking about an indoor shopping complex. That it can't be that difficult for someone to send an email around to all the managers of all shops saying what's happening on this date, and please make sure your staff are aware. And, you know,
and so that's the thing, that we need the awareness and the signposting to the community, but now more than ever we need the awareness raising and the information to the rest of society. And it's been an interesting couple of years with sort of Me Too and Black Lives Matter, and, you know, there's definitely a sort of the diversity and inclusion agenda is getting more airtime, but it's sort of how you harness it without it being tokenistic, that it's you know, with a good intention, not a tick box.
Yeah, and you can never please everyone.
No, that is,
you know, and you can, and you know, I found actually that so when we rebranded to Ability Today, you know, I originally took the dis out, and straight away I realized actually, well, some people wouldn't understand what Ability Today was, so I put the dis back in and put a red X through it. Now, for me, that's a really positive message. It's I'm not saying I'm not disabled. I am disabled. I'll be disabled for the rest of my life, you know, and I'm proud to say that I'm disabled and I'm going out and doing stuff, you know. But I did get negative feedback from some quarters saying, you know, are you ashamed of being disabled? And I'm like, of course I'm not. I'm just trying to do the best that I can.
Yeah. It's about, I mean, for me, the nuance of the language around disabled people is disabled by barriers. So if we end up with proper healthcare, proper social care, you know, no barriers, no like parking spaces that aren't blocked, then we're not disabled, because there's no longer those barriers that disable us. But it gets so political, the political correctness gets so crazy, because disability is different from disabled, and like we're agreeing it's about ability, not disability. And I think it's a red herring as well. Like, we all need to just get out there and show how great we are, and, you know, get the world to understand the challenges that we all have, but that we're all human, and that it's as simple as that, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, we got some comments coming in. A familiar name, David Miller.
David.
Two of my favorite guys. Hi, David. I hope you're well. And we've got LinkedIn user. I don't know why the name hasn't come up. That's unusual. But so, Martin, glad to see you going strongly. Sure, I was away for a while. Life in the UK for people who share information and passion. It is, and moreover, it can be dangerous. I think generally sort of agreeing to what we were talking about earlier, Grant. Nigel, how can I rewatch this as out with my Labrador and would like to watch this afternoon? It will be on Facebook till eternity, Nigel, so you can click back and play it later on. So no problem.
I have a meeting with Nigel next week, actually.
Do you? Nice. Yeah, I hear Nigel's doing a lot of good stuff with around videos and video production. Yeah. Jessica is saying, I got my journalism degree almost 14 years ago. Sadly, I got made redundant from my first two jobs in the industry, my local paper and Friday ad, and I've worked in a few other industries. Sorry to hear that, Jessica, but keep plodding away and keep in touch with Grant, because there may well be opportunities around journalism down the road, right, Grant?
Please do, because we are reaching out to, you know, a larger network, and the idea is that we will be able to help our students and other disabled journalists kind of maybe break through a few of the barriers that are currently in place to talk to the right people. So we may be able to help.
Cool. And then Vicky, who was on yesterday, hello Martin and Grant, and then she says Purple Tuesday needs so much more attention, right? That's what we were talking about before. Disabled bodies are left out of so many conversations.
Exactly.
I quite like that. A red X through the D. That's pretty cool. So Victoria loves it, Grant.
Thank you. Nice to hear. Good.
And Juliet, very interesting discussion about balancing two types of narratives, needing help and support, and yet wanting and being able to achieve too. Yeah, that sums up what we're saying really nicely, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, that actually, the whole thing with people having social care and receiving benefits, but yet, in one hand, they've got to be disabled to receive the benefits, but on the other hand, it's like, I mean, there's so many hoops and obstacles to jump through.
Yeah.
I could talk about that for a long time, but let's move on.
Cool. And then Jessica said, really interesting to watch this. Thank you both. So we're caught up on all the comments there. Really, thanks for the comments, everyone, and great to get your input into the conversation. Obviously, if you've got any other questions, we've got a few more minutes before we wrap. But I think the very last sort of question or theme, if you like, is the future, Grant, like for you personally, for Ability Today, for disabled people as a community. What do you think the next few years are going to hold or should hold?
I hope that the Academy goes from strength to strength. I hope that we're in our first year. Year 2 is already planned. I'd like to, be part of helping our students go on to find employment. And that's why we're having the conversations with the BBC and Media Trust and providing the skills. There's nothing, there's no stopping anyone with a disability going out and doing a journalism course through their, university or college or whatever. We're just providing some of the extra tools, like the subtitles, and access to the most features that we can. So moving forward, we hope that for years to come, we're going to be helping, students get places in, whether it's in your local newspaper or your local, studio. Ability Today as a whole, I hope the directory continues to grow. We're working on developing a new platform at the moment. Everyone gets a free listing on the directory. So if there's anyone out there that has a website or anything that they think should be included, you get a free listing because it's about building a resource more than anything. Someone said to me a while ago, well, why do you need a directory when we have Google? Fair point. Because, in some respects, you can type whatever you ask into Google. But a good example is if you type in adaptive clothing into Google, you'll get companies like Marks and Spencer's and Next and all of these kind of big major brands coming up before you'll get some of the inclusive designers and people that have, spent their hard-earned money to bring adaptive clothing, So it's not always easy to find. So yeah, please, if anyone knows of any, websites out there, send them over. We'll get them up a free listing. It's about building a resource.
Brilliant. That's a good shout out. And Victoria, who we mentioned earlier, was on yesterday. She was talking about adaptive clothing and sort of having a line coming out and the sort of tailored side, like people that acquire a disability have a wardrobe full of clothes, but they need to adapt the hem or the zip or whatever. So that would obviously be a great person to get in touch with you and get on the listing. Yeah, she just said hard agree and adaptive clothing very hard to find. But yeah, that was yesterday's conversation. So very much mirroring what you're saying, that there are specialists like Victoria that have really got that in-depth, tailored, bespoke knowledge, and obviously others as well. But I think that's just a really interesting narrative as well. Unhidden clothing. I'll give you another quick plug there, Vicky. But yeah, there's so much, and that's the thing. It touches all parts of life. Like it's like you say, going with the backup trust up a mountain. It's getting your clothes adapted. It's read skills, upskilled for career. Like there's so many, it touches all parts of life, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I think Martin, yourself, me, lots of people, we're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to achieve the same thing, as just basically support everyone and make life easier for people. You know, so yeah, let's all continue.
Let's keep carry on trucking, as they say.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, it's been a pleasure as always. Really nice to have a catch up on a personal level, and obviously everyone watching. I know there was a ton of value that you've offered the viewers today, so thanks for that. How can people? Well, what's the website for Ability Today? What social media are you on?
Abilitytoday.com, and you know, you can contact us through there. My personal email is grant@abilitytoday.com. And then we've got our social medias under the same name as well. So you'll find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of those. Yeah, exactly. You know.
Brilliant. Jessica just said, I don't think it's just journalism. We need to see more disabled people on TV, film, etc. We totally agree, Jessica. Obviously, we're just focused a bit more on journalism today, but absolutely, it's the whole representation in all of parts of the world, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and again, that's one of the reasons I'm having a conversation with Nigel. Is about providing, you know, video editing skills and things like that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, anything else you want to say before we sign off, Grant?
No, thank you for letting me come on, and
pleasure.
You know, it's great to catch up.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck with everything, and keep in touch with how things progress. Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Hope to speak soon. Thanks, Martin.
All right. And everyone watching, have a lovely weekend. I'm not on Monday because it's bank holiday, so I'll see you next Tuesday for the next episode of the Daily Sip. Bye-bye for now.